Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com and type in promo code VOLS, that's VOLS, at checkout to fill your freezer with enough gourmet food to keep your cookouts going strong into the fall. That is omahasteaks.com, promo code VOLS. The playoff is still there for Tennessee. So Tennessee loses this game and we're discouraged and it sucked. But then Notre Dame smashed Clemson and God bless them. Touchdown, Jesus bless them. God. Thank you, Notre Dame. Thank you. They beat Clemson's head in. I mean, what was it, 35-14 or something? Just an embarrassment from Clemson. So they are effectively eliminated. There's not really a path for them because the ACC is garbage this year. Just complete garbage. They're not going to have a big enough game to redeem themselves, even
They
in the
might
ACC.
lose another game anyway.
Exactly. I don't think they're very good. Their offense is absolutely horrendous. DJ Uyangalale he ain't the dude. He got replaced again by the freshman kid. I mean, they're terrible. So thank you, Notre Dame. We thank you. America thanks you. But then LSU beats Alabama. And it sets up LSU and Georgia in the SEC championship, even though, again, I'll say it again, the divisions are dumb and it should be Tennessee and Georgia in the SEC championship game, but whatever. So it sets up LSU and Georgia in the SEC championship game. And I think Georgia has a very good chance to beat LSU. Nothing about either of those games gave me any confidence that LSU is really going to push Georgia in that game. I mean, some weird things can happen, but Georgia's absolutely the better team. And then that leaves us with basically, it may not be this simple, but I think if TCU loses at Texas and they're a 7-point underdog going to Texas, if that tells you anything about what, odds makers and kind of the perception of TCU is at this point, if they lose at Texas and Tennessee wins out, and they're going to be heavy favorites in all three of their remaining games, it almost seems like it's there for Tennessee. I think it would, in the most simple scenario, it would be Georgia 1, winner of Ohio State, Michigan 2, probably Pac-12 champion 3, maybe, or Tennessee 3, and then Tennessee Pac-12 champion at 4. One of those seems like the most likely outcome. The prediction, the sort of prediction machines put it. I saw ESPN had a 65% chance for Tennessee to still make the playoff. I mean, it's right there for them. I don't know. Weird stuff happens every year in college football. Don't discount anything, but that seems very likely.
We're going to look a lot tomorrow night. That's where you really figure out scenario Tennessee needs to happen, because wherever the committee puts TCU and Tennessee tomorrow night is kind of what's going to determine the rest of the year and the path that Tennessee has to take. If they put Tennessee above TCU, then you're feeling pretty good about Tennessee's chances no matter what. If they're in that top 4 this week, they got 3 games. If they can blow out Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt, you feel pretty good about their chances. So that's a big factor there. And they put a one-loss Alabama above TCU. So you would think by that logic that Tennessee should be above TCU this week, but we don't know. That loss is fresh. Sometimes that impacts the way that they rank these teams. And Oregon's loss to Georgia was all the way back in week 1. I feel good about Tennessee's chances. The worst thing that can happen is if TCU doesn't lose and Georgia loses the SEC championship game. If they lose to LSU, a 2-loss LSU SEC champion will probably jump Tennessee. I don't like it. I don't think that should be the case. I will be angry. I will think it's a bunch of BS if a one-loss Tennessee team with a win over LSU at LSU doesn't get in and LSU does. That would be, I think all Tennessee fans would be. It would be like Shiano Sunday all over again if that happens. But that is a scenario that could happen. And Ole Miss, if Ole Miss somehow sneaks into the SEC championship game, they have one loss. They would have to win out, and LSU would have to lose to Arkansas, I believe, for that scenario to happen. They get in and they beat Georgia. Again, long shot. Don't think that'll happen. But they're definitely getting in over Tennessee at that point if they win the SEC with one loss. So those are disaster scenarios for Tennessee.
Yeah,
The
they're
TCU staying undefeated is concerning. Oregon with one loss is concerning. You would like to see them lose to Washington or Utah, somebody, to go ahead and get them an extra loss where you don't have to worry about it as much. I don't think a
except
one.
in that scenario, you still have USC as a
That's true because
outside
they and
factor. So
UCLA
that
play
doesn't
each
solve
other.
everything.
Yeah, that is true. Like they're both going to play each other, and one of them is going to have another loss, but that is still another team that could sneak in there. So that
I mean,
is
if you
concerning
wanted
as
it to
well.
be if you wanted it to be wrapped up in the nicest bow possible, where I also think the playoff is the most competitive it could be, this is what I think would need to happen. Oregon loses to Utah, and then I think this is what would happen. USC and Oregon play in the Pac-12 championship game, and then Oregon beats USC. So there's no one-loss team from the Pac-12 at that point. Well, it would still be UCLA, although UCLA and USC still have to play. So
Yes.
there would be no one-loss Pac-12 team at that point. And then the top four is Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, Michigan. I think that's the most competitive the playoff could be. I think that is the best the playoff could be this season, just in terms of the best teams in America from what we've seen so far, from the resume that we've seen. Well, and TCU loses also. That my assumption is TCU loses also in that, and then that's the top four. Because I just think that those are the four best teams in America from what we've seen thus far. I think anybody would have a hard time arguing that. And then Ohio State, Tennessee in the semifinal would be an incredible game. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Tennessee fans and Ohio State fans would love to see that.
That would likely
And
be at the Fiesta Bowl as well. If
it
they got
would.
into the 3 seed, that would be the 2-3
Yeah.
game. So that would be, a nice little storyline there, a little return to Arizona.
Fall is in the air, and that means fall grilling with cookouts, tailgate parties, and so much more. Luckily, the flavor experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to savor all the flavors of fall with their mouthwatering assortments of perfectly aged steaks, ultra juicy burgers, and easy to prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. And now is the perfect time to load up on all this incredible flavor and take advantage of 50% off site wide by shopping their friends and family sale. Go to omahasteaks.com and use my promo code Vols, that is VOLS, at checkout and get $30 off your order. And guys, I've said it in these ads for weeks now. I've had all of the stuff from Omaha Steaks. I can't endorse it enough. Everything has been high quality. It comes right to your door, so easy and convenient, and most importantly, tasty. So I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. So don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and stock up today. Omaha Steaks isn't just steak. It's the best steak of your life, guaranteed. And don't forget to score that extra $30 off your order when you use Vols at checkout, VOLS. Omaha Steaks is perfect for those chilly and busy fall nights. You won't come close to getting this kind of quality at the grocery store. Visit omahasteaks.com. Promo code Vols at checkout. Minimum order may be required. Omaha Steaks.
What do you think about, and this is what I was going to mention before we start talking about the Pac-12, do you think a one-loss Big Ten team is an issue? The loser of the Michigan-Ohio State game, do you think they're an issue at all? I don't think they are. I don't think they should be. But again, if people think that we're advocating for a one-loss Big Ten team or a one-loss Pac-12 team or any of this to get in over Tennessee, we're not. We're trying to figure out how the committee will view it.
Yeah.
And that's a wild card because you really don't know. Like I said, this week will teach us a lot, the second week of the rankings, but we don't know.
This week will say a lot. Does TCU hop anybody? Is Tennessee 4 or 5? That will be telling. But just judging from week 1, the committee does not respect almost anybody but the SEC.
It does seem that way.
The committee, and it's kind of been that way for years now. But they really respected Tennessee's resume, put them in number 1. They're obviously really going to respect Georgia's resume here. They're going to be number 1 in this next poll. I think they'll respect Ohio State. Clearly, they do. That was evident in the first poll.
Even though they barely beat Northwestern.
Yeah,
or not
CJ Stroud was horrendous.
Yeah.
It was. I know, Big Ten Jeff in the comments, you're going to want to say it was a windstorm. Okay, you still have to beat Northwestern.
Did the wind not blow when Northwestern had the ball? Was it
exactly
did it stop or something?
I didn't realize that Northwestern didn't play in a in a monsoon there. Anywho, but they really respect the SEC. Second to the SEC, they really respect the Big Ten. They basically just kicked the Big 12 in the nuts, and they just kind of put a middle finger up to them, and the Pac-12 too. I mean, they just were like, "We don't care about you guys.
Well, that's
Nobody."
the thing. If TCU gets in, they're going to get blown out by Ohio
Yeah,
State or Georgia. I mean, we all know that, right?
I mean, TCU has. I understand why their fans are mad, and we've seen it all week. Dude, you were down for the bulk of the game against Texas Tech this weekend. Come on. You had to come back against 4-4 Texas Tech. Let's be real here. There's a reason why you were a 7-point underdog to Texas, who is what, ranked 20th or something. I mean, and you're 9-0 and they're the favorite coming into the game. There's a reason for that. They don't respect you. And they shouldn't, because you haven't given them a real reason to. Also, I think their top receiver is out. At least they were against the guy was against Texas Tech. And so I
This is
just
why, like, I'm so excited about the 12-team playoff when it does start, because if there's
yes,
no argument against it, like, oh, you're just going to have more blowouts, and I don't. Obviously there will be some blowouts, of course, but if we're starting to see more and more parity over the last year or two, outside of maybe Georgia, where you can see a number 8 seed beat a number 2 seed or something, and it wouldn't be that shocking. And you don't have these decisions that are so painful to make, because a good team is probably going to get left out of the playoff that maybe could make some noise. Like, we don't know. You go to 12 teams, I'm not that upset about the number 13 team in the country being left out of the playoff. That's not that concerning as the number 5 team being left out. So that, to me, that's why I've always been for the expanded playoff.
I completely agree. All I know is that when all of this shakes out, I just don't want to feel screwed. If
Yeah.
TCU wins out in impressive fashion, they win the Big 12 championship, I'll be like, look, fine. You did it. And that's
And then
that.
we'd be mad all over again when they get blown out.
Exactly. I mean, we'll still be pissed when that happens. But at least I would be like, yeah, you went undefeated, you won the Big 12. Fine. Fine. But if it's something like, everybody has one loss in that scenario and they choose a one-loss TCU over Tennessee, something like that, where for years we're like, remember when we got screwed in the playoff that year? Just don't let it be that. Ugh. Like
I mean,
anything but that.
if
Please, dear God.
Alabama stays in the top 10, if LSU stays in the top 10, if Kentucky can finish out strong and get back into the top 25, that makes Tennessee's resume look really good. I mean, Georgia has 2 wins over top 10 teams. So does Tennessee. I think those are the only 2 teams that have multiple wins over top 10 teams. I think that's going to weigh pretty heavy with the committee. I think they value that a lot. So as long as Alabama if kind of, you need Alabama to beat Ole Miss, you need LSU to win out and then just lose to Georgia in the SEC championship. That alone might be enough to do it, as long as Tennessee, of course, takes care of business. And we'll get into Missouri, and that's going to be a tougher game, I think, than people have really considered. Still a game they should win. But if you can do that, if those things can go your way, I think Tennessee's in a really good shape, and they might not need the help that we're talking about, but you still feel a lot better if you have that help.
Yes, exactly. So it's just gonna have to play itself out, and where you start is you got to win your remaining 3 games, and that's the thing